Please be seated. Oh, it's summer, or is it the end of the traditional summer? It's that in-between time, and it reminds me of all the tasks and jobs on the to-do list. I'm thinking about my brother and sister at my parents' cabin right now, and whenever they are there, or actually there's a list ongoing, there's always work to be done. And you all know it. It could be building a shed or felling trees or shoveling rock for the driveway. We had to dig a trench so we could put water lines in so we could be good stewards of the water of the earth and use the lake water to water the grass and all that kind of stuff. You're familiar with lists of projects like this. Well, this summer, and because I'm not done, hardly started yet, into this fall, one of the projects that was assigned, and my brother likes doing that from time to time, assigning me projects. My project is to make a door. Sounds easy. Make a door. Oh, and we want it to be a pre-hung door, David. Oh, piece of cake. I've never done it before in my life. All right, so I did what I usually do. I Googled how to make a door. You know there's about a gazillion variables in making a door? Anyways, I haven't done it yet, and since my tools and materials are up north, which is where the cabin is, I started in the last couple of days, this last week anyways, I started with the door handle. Now, I know that's a little backwards. You're supposed to start with the door and then the handle's the last thing you put on. But it's all up there and you got to start someplace. So, I am a selective cheapskate. I am a selective frugal zealot. I'm not going to buy a door handle. I'm going to make one. You know, it's a simple, just a U-shaped pull handle. It doesn't have to have a latch and a lock and all that kind of fun stuff. So what did I do? I went out into the woods. I found a downed maple tree. I got my chainsaw out. I know it's a little involved for a door handle, but I cut some firewood. I got the saw back. It's sharp again. I cut the firewood. I took a piece. I got my splitting maul out. I split it in half, and then that was the easy shot. The hard shot, now that I had it in half, I had to actually hit the half a piece of wood to chop off the rounded part. Took me a couple times. But I hit it. Now I have, more or less, a crude piece of lumber. It's like a really big 2x4. What would that be? It's like a 3x8 or something like that. Then, I went over to the bandsaw. Now I'm going to cut out a simple U with a kind of cutout. The saw, the band actually, it's off the tracks. Now, I'm not really a woodworker. I don't even remember how it got off the tracks. I don't use the bandsaw very often. I mean, you just want it there just in case. Women, we guys need tools just in case. You know, we might not use it more than once a year, but we need them. Anyways, I don't know how to put a saw back on a bandsaw. Someone had been smart. Right behind my bandsaw, on a peg on the pegboard, was the manual, the instructions, how to do it. And I read it. What a waste of time. But I read it, and it told me how to do it. And I did it, and I cut out that door handle. So I'm well on my way now to making a door. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because manuals are important. And this morning we are beginning a 5-week read through major portions of the letter of James, this book of the Bible we call James. And James has been called a manual of practical Christianity. It's like a how-to manual for the Christian life. You saw it already in the first chapter. Be slow to anger, quick to listen. It's about being patient for the coming of the Lord. It instructs us to be doers of the word and not only hearers of the word. We learn in James, or learn again, that we are to be committed to caring for the orphans and the widows. We learn again that we are to be unstained by the world, the cosmos, which is usually in direct opposition to Jesus and Jesus' ways. But really, that's stuff we already know, isn't it? There's a story about a young college graduate who was beginning what he had hoped would be a promising career in sales. He was outgoing and witty and enthusiastic and personable and all the rest that you need to be when you're in sales. His company assigned him his territory. It was in the rural Midwest. And he was to be selling the latest farm equipment to the farmers in the area. So he went out with his message of better farming through better equipment. Now, his first 2 visits didn't result in a sale. But this young salesman was actually encouraged because the farmers that he had talked to appeared at least to be interested and listening. And so he wrote in his notes, promising conversation, return for follow-up visit. All right, then he stopped at a 3rd farmhouse. And he saw the farmer, presumably the farmer was on the porch. And so he got out of his car and he bounded up the rickety steps on the porch and he said, howdy. And the guy said, howdy yourself. Sir, can I show you a catalog of modern farm equipment? Nope, said the farmer. Well, sir, don't you want to know how to improve your farming methods? After a moment of silence, this thoughtful farmer looked at the salesman right in the eyes and said, son, I already don't do half the things I know I should be doing. And isn't that the case with many of us? Isn't that the case when it comes to the Christian faith? We already know. The book of James reminds us of what we already know we should be doing, or reminds us of what we already know we should not be doing. But that's the point. That's the point of James. Knowing the right thing to do is not what it's all about. It's about actually doing it. And James is telling us to get to it. Too often, he says, we're like someone who sees themselves in a mirror, but then walks away and forgets. Let me contemporize that just a little bit. You see, back in the olden days, 1st century, not very many people had mirrors, so you didn't really know what you looked like. It's kind of like most of us don't know what we sound like, right? We think we know what we sound like, but when we listen on a tape recorder, it's like, who's that? Oh, that dated me. Tape recorder? We listen to ourselves on an MP3 player. That's what I sound like? Well, they didn't have mirrors, so every once in a while, maybe they had a mirror. They saw themselves. Let me contemporize it a little bit so it makes more sense to us. It's like someone who looks at themselves in the mirror some Sunday morning and says, whoa, what bedhead. You know, it's a bad hair day. I better brush my hair. And then walks away and never brushes his or her hair. It's like that. And what good is that? What good was it to go to the mirror and decide that you should brush your hair and never brush your hair? Get to it and brush your hair. Get to it. And be about the doing and living of the Christian life. People, we all need to hear that. Again and again and again and again. We all need to let the word through which it says we already have received new birth. We need to let that word mature and guide our lives. We need to let the word, which was already planted inside of us, it says, by the Father, the creator of the heavenly lights. We need to let that word, which has been planted in us, grow and develop. We need to, as it said in the text, continually welcome that word and live by that word and be doers of that word. It's not just about knowing. It's about doing. Then we come to our gospel text. Oh, if we're only just that easy, it's about doing. Which is hard, but it's about doing. We come to our gospel text, and we discover that it's more than simply just following rules and doing the rules. You see, Jesus blasts the religious people for keeping the traditions. The deception of tradition. Jesus blasts the people of his day for keeping the traditions through which they thought they were looking good and religious and proper, but who at the same time were neglecting the deeper matters of the faith and the heart. At the same time, who were ignoring the connectedness to and rootedness in the living God and God's passion for people. Someone once said, to do or not to do, that is the question, or something like that. To do or not to do. That's the question. It is not the question. To do or not to do is not the question. Of course we are to be doers of the word. We've got a manual to follow and a man to follow. You see, we're to be shaped by that man, that word made flesh, by Jesus and his kingdom proclamation, by Jesus and his kingdom inauguration. And you and I, everyone in the hearing of these words, are to join in that kingdom work, which is not necessarily the same as being doers of a religious tradition. Because when we're doers of a religious tradition, what sometimes happens, or what sometimes follows, the danger is that judging others follows on whether they adhere to the same traditions that we do, whether they like the same kind of worship as we do, whether they like the same kind of denomination as we do, whether they like the same time of worship as we do. You know, we're a lot better than those yahoos at 9:30 or 9:45. Of course, at 9:45, I'm going to say, we're a lot better than those yahoos at 8:15. It's not necessarily about the traditions, religious traditions we follow. It's about kingdom work. It's about joining kingdom work. Not so we can look good and feel religious and all that kind of stuff. We're to join the kingdom work. God's kingdom work, the work that God has called us to do, so that everybody, yes, everybody, but especially the poor, it says, the poor and disenfranchised and the marginalized, that all might know of and experience the kingdom life of unconditional love and forgiveness, of peace and justice, of dignity and compassion. What did we read from James? We are to care for orphans and widows in their difficulties, even as we keep the cosmos, the ways of the world, from contaminating us. But we know this, don't we? We know this. On this Labor Day weekend, let's once again hear the message from the manual and commit once again to embracing that kingdom work as our labor, as our primary labor, as our labor wherever you find yourself this week. Where will you be this week? And I ask that because wherever it is that you will be this week is where you have the greatest opportunity to be a doer of the word. For some of you, it's where you work. Whether that be in a classroom, as we're thinking about teachers going back to work, or in the lab, or at the office, or on the factory floor, or at your business where you interact with customers and clients. It's there that you have the greatest opportunity to be a doer of the word. For students, your greatest opportunity for being doers of the word might be at school, or on the volleyball court, or on the football field. For others, maybe your greatest opportunity for being a doer of the word happens right in your home. Or maybe it's in your neighborhood. Or maybe it's with the organizations you serve with and through, whether that be church or community. The point that James is making is that we are called to engage in that kingdom work. We are called to engage as doers of the word, spreaders of the heavenly light, which comes from the Creator. How will you do that this week? Amen.